Hey you guys, today we're talking about competitive exclusion principle. So if you remember from our last set of notes, we were talking about communities and community interactions. And when you have similar types of species or the same species interacting, it's called intraspecific competition. And when you have two different species interacting, you have interspecific competition. And so today we're going to look a little bit more closely at the interspecific competition between two different species. And what happens when species compete. How does it turn out? And so here we have competition in a community. And when you have competition in the community between two different species, you're going to have a winner. One will win, one will lose. That should make sense. So if two people want to eat a sandwich, one person's going to go after it. One person's going to get it, the other person's going to not get it. So competition produces a winner. It produces a loser. And so if two species try to occupy the same niche, remember that niche is a job in the community. So if two species try to occupy the same niche, one will outcompete the other. So if we have two organisms, we have two species here, we have lions and we have hyenas. If both lions and hyenas ate only the same type of food, if they both only ate hare, I don't think hare live over there, but if they both only ate hare, then they would be competing, and eventually one population would be stronger, be more fit for the ecosystem, and they're going to win the competition, meaning they're going to get more rabbits. They're going to get more rabbits. And the more rabbits they get, the bigger their population is because they have more food. And so the bigger that the lion, let's just say the lion is the winner, if the lion population gets bigger and bigger, what's going to happen to the hyena population? It's going to get smaller and smaller because they're getting fewer and fewer rabbits. And so they can live in the same area if they have other types of food. So the lion and the hyena sometimes do eat the same type of food, but they also depend on other types of food. So hyenas are scavengers, so they're going to find carcasses and eat those, whereas lions are hunters. And so they are able to live in the same areas because they're not in direct competition with the one single resource. And so we call this competitive exclusion principle. The competitive exclusion principle states that no two species can occupy the same niche at the same time. Because what happens, one will win. And so there is a famous study with protists, or with single-celled eukaryotic organisms called Paramecium. And on the y-axis, we see here that this is going to be the size of the population. On the x-axis, this is over time. What happened was a scientist grew Paramecium, as one species of Paramecium, P. aurelia, in a dish, and he gave them food and all the resources that they needed. And what happened was the Paramecium, their community grew. It grew and it grew, and as time continued on, the population got larger. And so he did this in a separate container for another species of Paramecium, Paramecium caudatum. And so same thing happened. The population started small with just a few organisms, and he added food, and over time the population got larger. And what happened here is we can see the competitive exclusion principle demonstrated when he put both of those populations into the same dish. He put both the P. aurelia and the caudatum into the same dish. Both small populations, gave them food, and what you can see is both populations started to grow until one was more fit for the ecosystem, more capable of surviving, and it outcompeted the other. So the aurelia, the Paramecium aurelia, was maybe faster, maybe they could survive on less food, but they were able to to survive long enough to pass on their genes and to produce more offspring. And so one species outcompeted the other. This is called the competitive exclusion principle. And here's our last slide. So two species that share a habitat will have different niches. So we do see sometimes species will be living closely, different species will be living closely with one another. And we call this resource partitioning. This is a way that different species can live closely together and not compete. So what happens if we look, there's a famous study by a scientist named MacArthur who studied warblers, and he said, well, this doesn't make sense. If we have 6 different warblers living in a tree, in a coniferous tree, then they should be competing, and one of the species of warblers should outcompete all of the others, and then there should just be that kind of warbler there. That warbler should eat all of the food and take all of the space. But what he found is that each of the warblers used the resources differently, or used the tree differently. So let's say the bay-breasted warbler ate the berries at the end, and the Cape May warbler maybe used the tree for making a nest, and the black-throated green warbler perhaps ate the insects out of the trees. So they were able to live in the same space because they partitioned their resources. They used different resources, and so therefore they could share a habitat. And that is it for notes. What I want you guys to do is to watch the crash course and answer the questions at the bottom of the notes. Have a great day.